turn it over to Maureen Fox, who is our one of our 2 GPLH co-presidents. I'm sorry, Nancy Keene, will you just wave my co-president?
Hi, everybody.
And Maureen and Michelle and Deborah are our program committee. And I'm going to turn it over to Maureen to get us going. Thanks all for coming. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking.
Thank you for that, Allison, and thank you for getting us set up. I just, introduced Michelle Neptune, my co-chair, and Deborah Brown, who's also on the program committee. So thank you for all the work on putting this together. Just reminding everybody that this session is being recorded. Asking everyone to mute themselves and put your questions in the chat. We will have time for questions throughout if we have time. If we have a lot of questions, we'll stop during the chat, during the presentations, but if not, we'll make sure, try to get to everybody's question at the end. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our 2 speakers today. Kendra Dunstan is the Development and Communications Coordinator at Legal Services of the Hudson Valley. She's been creating and crafting social media posts for many years. She will share her best practices, suggestions, and tips of what she has learned from her experience in the nonprofit world of social media. Kathleen Lapone is an experienced nonprofit executive who has been fundraising for over 30 years. Her early career experience in sales and marketing gives her a unique perspective on how to steward funders and major donors. She will share tips on how to make your funders feel appropriately acknowledged through social media. Catherine has been the executive director of several nonprofit organizations, and she also serves as board president of the AFP New York Westchester chapter. And now I'm just going to ask Kendra to kick us off and start the program. So thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to share some of the things I've learned, and I'm just going to hop right into it. Let's start with my PowerPoint. Okay, so today we're going to be covering social media stewardship, some tips and tricks on using social media to build and foster relationships with funders. Today, we're going to cover what is social media and stewardship, how to be visible to your funders, and then some of my own personal tips that I've learned along the way. Let's start with social media. I'm sure everyone knows what social media is by this point, but just to go over really quick, it's a collection of websites and applications known as platforms that enable users to create and share content, or to participate in social networking. So basically, it's the where it all happens. And then we go into stewardship. And the most basic definition I can find was on dictionary.com. And it defined it as the responsible overseeing and protection of something considered worth caring for and preserving. And I think that this is really important because our funders care about our causes, and that is a relationship that you do want to protect. And this is the most easiest way, one of the easiest ways to show people that you care about these relationships. So why would you want to use social media as stewardship? One, funders are looking. A lot of your decision makers, they look at your social media pages to see what you're doing. It makes your funders feel special, which is really important, especially when they have to write those checks and decide who they're going to give their resources to. Contracts are increasingly asking for this information. As time goes on, this is the way. So we need to make sure that we have measurable and tracking and results that we can track how we're doing and what we're doing. And then you instantly become visible to your funders. The more that they see you, the more that they feel connected to you and your mission, and more inclined maybe to help you out when you're writing those grants. You also want to keep in mind that when you use social media for stewardship, you do not want your thank you post to outshadow your actual core mission, the things that you do for your clients and the work that you do. It really just needs to be in a mix. One thing about the picture that I saw here, I found it on a blog by Carolyn Appleton, and she is a communications guru, and she wrote an article about 20 years ago, and in there was this picture, and it says social media stewardship essential to your development program. And it speaks volumes to me because it says that it's like watering your favorite flowers or your favorite plant, and they all need different amount of water. So you have to make sure that you're watering those plants properly and making sure that you're following the funders' directions. Some funders want recognition and some don't. Some want their logo included everywhere, and some want specific statements when you are acknowledging their gifts. You really want to get connected with these platforms here. We have Instagram, which is the fastest growing platform in 2021. It's also best for an audience under 40. And the content that works best here is beautiful photos, stunning visuals, and unique designs. You want to be kind of creative when it comes to Instagram because it helps you stand out. Then you have Facebook, which has over 2.5 billion monthly users. The primary audience there is over 30, and 68% of US adults report using Facebook regularly. And then they also lean on eye-catching images and big headlines to really draw your viewer in. And then this is a place where you might want to consider doing live streams where you're talking about your mission, and then also maybe giving a shout out to your funders of that mission. Then you have YouTube, where 73% of adults report using regularly. It is the second most popular search engine in the world today. So don't discount YouTube as a way to get through to your funders. There's over 2 billion monthly users. And then we have Twitter, which has about 300 users. One thing I'm increasingly realizing is Twitter, you know, they're not so into the feel-good story. They're more about funding, government, and breaking news. They want bite-sized information and straight to the point. Many of your government officials are there, so it's a great place to connect with them and become visible to your funders. And then we have LinkedIn, which is rated the most trusted social network in the US. There's over 722 million members there. And it is a platform where your decision makers are. They say 4 to 5 people on LinkedIn drive business decisions. So you definitely want to be there and get connected with your funders. And don't forget that even though your website and your email are not necessarily considered social media, they are social communications, and it's a way that you can become visible to your funders too. A good tip for your website is to make sure you're verifying your logos. I say at a minimum of every 2 years, but yearly I look at that and make sure I do have logos on file for everyone who wants to be acknowledged publicly. And then also sharing your announcements on your emails and your solicitations out to your mail group there. The picture we have here is one that we did when Phil Hall announced their grants for seniors, and it was a very exciting moment. We got a photo out, and it really did well. So now, how to be visible to your funders. There's 3 easy ways. One, you want to engage often. You want to post at least 3 times a week across all your platforms. You want to be consistent. Definitely set your brand image by setting your style, your colors, and the tone of your messaging. And then you want to follow, tag, and repeat. And I'm going to go over all those steps right now. And I'm sorry, just to go back. You wanted to engage, I'm sorry, engage often, but we're going to go over these numbers too that we see here in this post. The number of people who saw your posts at any one time or any post, that is called your post reach. So it's how far your actual message got. And then you have your post engagement, which is the total number of actions that people take involving your post. So are they liking, are they sharing, are they putting emojis? What are they doing when you put your posts out? And another important number is your page followers. These are the number of people who will most likely see your work when you put it out. I apologize there. So now we want to engage often. There's different ways that you can engage with your platforms, and Our job is very demanding. There's a lot of things that we're doing, and it is really difficult sometimes to keep up with social media, and sometimes that falls by the wayside. So I love Hootsuite for what it does, especially during busy time where I can set up all of my messages and make sure that they're all set for the month. And I have like a core group of things that's happening, things like holidays, federal holidays, or events that's happening in my organization. You're able to post to multiple platforms at one time. You can edit individual platforms now. So you can put one message and change it for for Twitter as opposed to Facebook. And it also gives you engagement tools. When's the best time to post these messages on what day? It's now when you fill in your calendar, it'll give you a message saying that, hey, we recommend that you send the post out on Tuesday at 12 o'clock. So I definitely say if you have a budget for Hootsuite to look into it. There are some cons in it. Tagging is difficult, especially across the different platforms. So something like Twitter, you can tag anyone easily on Hootsuite. And then when you try to go to Facebook, you can't tag individual accounts on business accounts. So it can be kind of difficult and daunting at times to make sure you're tagging everyone you're supposed to tag. And then with direct posting, these are really important when you need to tag the person that you want to see your message. I would absolutely recommend using direct posting whenever you want to say thank you to your funders. You can post in real time, and this also gives you the ability to go live if you wanted to say a quick thank you to your funders, but it can be time consuming. And when we don't have a lot of time, that you have to get it in there and schedule it. And one way that we help with time is by having a calendar and making sure that we're following all the benchmarks or hitting all the benchmarks we did. Another thing is to be consistent. I love Canva, and Canva has a nonprofit professional plan. So there's a little video just to show you what Canva does, if you all just take a moment and look. So, and I kind of spit through that really quick, but Canva, it has over 400,000 templates. You have a whole slew of fonts you can use. It allows you to set a brand image and collaborate with your team. You don't need any design skills, and it saves you a lot of time. So if you have an EIN number, apply for their grants to unlock Canva's premium features, and the website is there. And then we want to follow, tag, and repeat our funders. Follow, tag, and repeat. So for our funders, you want to follow your funders and potential funders with these 3 simple steps. I use Facebook as the example to teach you how to tag if you're not aware how to. And the reason why I use Facebook, because it's a little extra step when you are following your funders. You want to locate your 3 dots on their page and choose like as your page. If you just hit like, you're going to like as your personal account. And if you have a Facebook account, you have to be linked to your personal account. So make sure you're liking as your organization's page. And then you follow that funder. So you want to make sure that you are engaging with them, tagging them in posts, liking their posts, and also sharing. And so then, I have a few tips. One, get organized. We use an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of all of our communications. And I actually use 2 spreadsheets currently, and 1 spreadsheet for the entire year. I'll look back and see any of our holidays coming up, anything that I know that's coming up, and make sure that's in the sheet. And then I also have a sheet for my funders where when grants come in, I'm looking at them, I'm reading them, and I'm finding out exactly what their expectations are. And I want to put that inside the calendar so we can't miss a deadline or something that we need to do. Also, get Canva Pro for nonprofits. It saves you a lot of time, and a little bit of creativity goes a long way. And then you want to follow and follow and follow. Stewardship is about acknowledging the funder. What good is your work if they can't see it? So you want to be out there on all your different platforms and making sure you're constantly doing that work. I find that when event time comes in, my post engagement and reach declines a bit because I'm not as engaged with following and sharing content because I'm busy with my bigger projects. But once I get back in it, I see those numbers go right back up. And stay active on your pages. People want instant communication, instant responses. And then don't forget, social media does not replace the power of a handwritten note. Still connect with your funders, still speak to them and reach out to them and thank them personally. So the bottom line is use social media to say thank you. It's a sincere form of flattery and it's the polite thing to do. Follow your funders and they will follow you. If you have any questions, I am available.
I have a question. The screenshot that you gave us of the post engagement, all that was a Hootsuite. Was that a Hootsuite? I don't know, dashboard?
That's a very good question. That's actually our Facebook page. That was the time period, December. And I just pulled our numbers right from Facebook. And that was a really good time. People feel good during the holidays and we put a lot of content out there. And we had over 163% increase in our post reach during that time.
Yes, the PowerPoint will be made available. Yes, Carrie.
I have a question about Canva. I'm just wondering, what are some of the things that you have done with it?
Okay, very good question. Well, the entire slideshow, all the graphics that's on there were items created in Canva. And I kind of sped through my PowerPoint and I wish I would have given a little bit more time showing all the different things we can do. But not only are my social media posts created there, our most recent dinner journal, our digital dinner journal was created there. A lot of our PowerPoints, we just put a graphic on our 14-day different type of notices. So those infographics are created there. We've created videos in Canva, really fun videos, and also informational videos. I'm also able to do Know Your Right video templates in there. So Canva can be used for almost anything digital. And it's really
I'd add too, Kendra, that you can use it for your banners, your Facebook banner, your LinkedIn banner, you know, all of those kinds of things. And they have a template that's custom designed for whatever platform you're going to put it on. So there's a LinkedIn banner template. So you can add photos and things to that. You can do one for Facebook and other platforms as well. They're all sized appropriately, which is always the challenge when you create these banners. The challenge is always getting the right size so that it fits correctly on that platform. And they're great at that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm talking and I'm muted. So anyone, any other questions at this particular time? If not, we'll just have Catherine go ahead and then both ladies will be around later for more questions if we have them. So Catherine, you're up. Catherine, I think you're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. Quick update. I am the immediate past president of AFP Westchester. We just had our elections, and so I'm excited that we've got some new people coming along to take the leadership of the organization, but I'll be around for quite a bit longer. So thanks, Kendra. You made some really great points. I wanted to come at this from a slightly different perspective. I've been selling or fundraising my entire life. I started with grammar school with high school raffles. I graduated to high school fundraisers and dances. I organized the only successful fundraiser in my small school's history. And then I worked over the trustees for a matching gift because we wanted new cheerleading uniforms. And I confess, I was a telemarketer. But I love the arts and I was a dancer. And back when it wasn't so complicated, I even wrote an NEA grant for my dance group while I was still in college. But I had to find a career where I could make money too. And when I was a child, I used to do commercials when my mom gave me the bath. My toys were old soap bottles and dishwashing soap jugs. And my mom said to me, if you don't go into advertising, it'll be a crime. Now, interestingly enough, when I was in college and I had to declare a major, I did find the marketing area to be the best interest area for me and my business administration degree. So I found a way to blend my interest in the arts with a business degree. And I did all my independent marketing research studies at the Performing Arts Center. And I was always trying to find ways to grow our audiences, even while I was still an undergrad. But graduation happens, and on a whim, I decided to move to California. And desperately needing a job, I started working as a department coordinator for an architectural firm. And wanting to use my marketing degree, I befriended the secretary of the marketing director, and I ended up getting a meeting with him to talk about my career goals. And that's when everything changed. So here I am. The man on the left brought me in to see the president of the company, the man on the right. And they had noticed my skills as an administrator, but they also noted that I had a marketing degree, and they promoted me several times until I eventually became the marketing director for the firm when the guy on the left got a promotion. And then these two guys told me, you have to join a nonprofit board. Who, me? I don't know anything about nonprofit boards. Why? And they told me, because we want the firm to be seen in the best positive light. And we do that by all being involved in the community in some way. We're each picking a board to be a part of, and each board that we're picking is strategically selected to advance our marketing objectives and to reach our target audience. So I was assigned to the Los Angeles Junior Chamber of Commerce, and there I learned about fundraising, galas, nonprofit management, and I served on the executive committee for many years. And that service made me realize that the 20 hours a week I was spending on that was more fulfilling to me than my full-time job. So I set a goal to transition my career to nonprofit management. That architectural firm that I worked for underwent a reorganization, and the president I had worked for 7 years left, and I was suddenly out of a job. But thanks to all of my nonprofit board service, I was able to network and get a number of different consulting assignments working for different kinds of organizations. One of them referred me to the Joffrey Ballet to do audience development for them. And that was a dream come true. And I worked for them for 3 seasons. I consulted more and more nonprofit organizations until I ended up as the executive director of a small nonprofit. So guess what? Sales is about asking people for money, making sure people are happy, thanking them and appreciating them for their support, delivering what is promised, asking again for support, and doing it over and over. Fundraising is about asking people for money, making sure they're happy, thanking them and appreciating them for their support, delivering what is promised, asking again for support, and doing it over and over. Feels a little bit like Groundhog Day, doesn't it? Well, so what? Why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you for a good reason, and there's a moral to the story. These two careers went together like peanut butter and jelly. And for those of you who remember the old Reese's peanut butter cup ads, someone was walking down the street with a hunk of chocolate and another person was walking down the street with a jar of peanut butter. They ran into each other and discovered that the two flavors actually went very well together, despite the fact that it never seemed like they should. See, I told you I was a study in commercials. So working with funders, also known as your customers. So what I learned is that funders, especially corporate funders, are supporting you because they want to be seen in a positive light. It's not all altruistic, even though their corporate social responsibility team tells you that it is. So when you work with funders, ask them, what are their marketing goals? Asking in and of itself is a stewardship tool. What are their target markets? Are they trying to reach residents of a particular economic opportunity zone? What are their corporate ideals and values? And I'm sure you've all seen about cause awareness months. There are many calendars out there that'll tell you all the different focuses for every day of the year. Nonprofit Tech for Good has an excellent calendar for this. And if you're not familiar with Nonprofit Tech for Good, I strongly recommend getting Heather's newsletter and signing up for some of her courses. She has one exclusively dedicated to social media for nonprofits. So look over these cause months. How do these cause months tie to your values and your mission? How do they tie to your funders' goals and objectives? And when we're talking about the funders, find out what is their social media presence. What channels do they use? What platforms are they on? I was a brand new executive director at a local nonprofit. We met with one of our biggest funders to talk about our goals for the year and what our programmatic vision was. We asked them to renew their support and they happily agreed. And the meeting was about to end and I stopped them and I said, "Can I ask you a question?" And they said, "Sure." I asked them what their marketing goals were and what we could do as a nonprofit agency to help them. They sat back down in their chairs and their mouths kind of dropped open just a little bit. The funder looked at me and said that in all of his years of doing this work, no one had ever asked him that question. And he was really impressed and appreciative. And we embarked on a long and fruitful discussion about things our agency could do to raise their visibility. We took careful notes about all of their preferences and goals. We had a very close working relationship for many years going forward. And while that experience surprised me that no one had ever asked them before, it taught me to always ask. So I pass that tip on to you. But let's go back a step, referring back to what Kendra was talking about. Before you can help your funders reach their marketing goals, you need to build your own social media presence, and you need to create the leverage you need with funders. So know your numbers. Kendra really did a good job of showing us some of the ways you can do that. Different channels have different statistics. Do you know your viewers, your followers, your likes, your impressions? What were your best posts? I asked a social media manager at the nonprofit that I consult with for some of her insights. And she told me that each platform has their own unique analytic tools, as well as limitations. So it's a matter of knowing what platform you work with to get the best results and to know what analytics and information you can get from it. She said, for example, she can't break down Twitter followers into demographics like age, race, language, but she can for YouTube and Facebook. So she caters more of her specific content to that platform and then keeps Twitter more general or as just an extra sound piece to signature content that she's posting. She can better target her audiences through Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so you've done your homework, you know your numbers, you've built your network, and now you know all of this information, and armed with data, you build your social media presence into your sponsorship or funding requests. Offer funders quantifiable things that help them meet their goals. Mentions, tags, comments, reposts, reshares, shout outs. You can dedicate a day on a regular basis to shout outs. For example, sponsor Saturdays or funder Fridays. Do an Instagram live. Kendra talked about this a little bit. Do a Facebook live from one of their locations. Again, refer back to their marketing goals. What target markets are they looking for increased visibility in? You can use their location as a program venue or a special event site. In your social media, remember to use video for high levels of engagement. The stats are definitely there that back this up. The marketing director's back. Here we go again. Branding must-haves. Ask, how do the funders want to be seen? Logos and spacing. Kendra made a great point. Check and make sure you've always got the current logo. But don't neglect logos and spacing and how their branding looks. I had a major funder, $30,000 donor, who threatened to pull funding because we messed up his logo when we published it in a gala journal. He was very unhappy, but it goes back to my point that this is not all altruistic. There are marketing moves here that the funder is trying to accomplish. What are their taglines? Con Edison, for example, wants to have everything matters consistently posted with their logo. Some companies require prior approval of anything you're going to post. Fill this into your timing and don't neglect it. Ask the funder if they have a branding guide and get a copy of it and make sure you understand it. Use the correct fonts and colors. And what about photography? Some organizations don't want any clip art used in connection with their logo or imaging. And be socially responsible when you're using photos of people so that you're not perpetuating stereotypes. Use ethical storytelling. There was a major fundraising publication that recently did a story on poverty. The cover had two poorly dressed Black men on the cover under the headline, Poverty in America. They got a lot of backlash because it perpetuated a stereotype about what poverty looks like. And be sensitive to posting several funders in one story. Make sure that they're complementary to one another and that they're not competitors. When posting about funders that may be competitors or from the same space, you may want to space them out or time them differently so that they're not right on top of each other. When I was at Girls Inc. National had a very specific branding guideline. This is just one page of their brand and graphic guidelines manual. And as you can see, it's extremely detailed from the tagline, punctuation, fonts, colors, and the configuration of how to stack or unstack the logos. And this is only one page of a very long document that covered all of these questions. So, tips. Remember to, Kendra already talks about posting in various methods such as Loomly or Hootsuite versus direct posting. I'm not going to get into the technology of the pros and cons of that. She's much better at that than I am, but you have to create a calendar, to her point, of posts that the entire team can see that stay coordinated. Many organizations use November as a month of gratitude or a day of gratitude. You can pick any month you want. It's a great stewardship tool and acknowledge not only your funders, but your volunteers, board members, constituents in your social media. Use your CRM to remind you when to post for funders and note the donor preferences in your CRM somehow. Have a central repository of logos and guidelines for each funder. Use Google Drive or Dropbox, for example. Keep track of your posts and engagement so you can report back to the funder. And we want to go back to that LinkedIn comment that Kendra made. I find a lot of social media managers are skipping over the power of LinkedIn. This is where your funders are. This is where your board members are. This is where your major donors are. So build it into your strategy. You can also engage social media ambassadors to help you increase engagement. They can help you grow your audience. They're the core donors or supporters of your mission, the ones who tell their friends and family about the organization. This is a great use of board members. 83% of them are more likely to share information than your average user, and using ambassadors constructs a more personal, trusting, long-term relationship, the one that you're looking for among your core donors and their circles. This will impact your reach, your credibility, and the bottom line. Activating ambassadors help expand the reach of your campaigns with not spending money in advertising. And social media is becoming more and more pay to play. Heather in the Nonprofit Tech for Good webinars talks about this. If you're not sponsoring and boosting your ads and your posts, you're probably not going to get seen. So this is a great way to make things go viral without spending a lot of money. And it's an easy to manage volunteer opportunity for new people. So now that you know your reach and your metrics, continue to fine-tune your approach. Again, some tips from the social media manager I spoke with. She said with overall numbers, she can compare previous posts to see if a certain factor increases or improves from a certain campaign or strategy that she's trying. She said it's a good idea to have a call to action, something that's measurable, like a goal would be to get more video views. So she wants to keep an eye on the link clicks, sources from where people are landing on the page, etc. And that way you can keep track of whether or not your stats are improving. And then just do it again and again. Continue to fine tune as you go, report back to your funders, gain feedback, and work with your entire team to determine what strategies are the most effective. In lifting others, we all rise. I added the editorial all there because this is about partnering with funders and corporate sponsors and your nonprofit agency to lift the visibility and positive reputation of both of you. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't discovered Unsplash for free high quality images, I highly recommend checking it out. High quality photos are super important to the success of your social media and your marketing efforts. So I hope hearing from an old marketing pro was helpful to you and that you got something from this presentation in addition to Kendra's wonderful advice. And my contact information is up here and I'll put it in the slide deck, and I'm happy to chat further or answer any questions either now or offline.
Thank you so much, Catherine and Kendra. Those were great presentations. Anybody have any questions, comments?
This is Maria Samuels from Westchester Disabled and Move. I have a question for a small nonprofit, Catherine. What would you say, like for 2022, should be our immediate, like top 3 goals when it comes to social media? Or no?
It would depend on, I think, what your current presence is. I would really start working on building your followers and your likes and your engagement on your own page so that you can start really working toward engaging with your funders as well. And to Kendra's point, and she can probably add to this, make sure you're following all of them and the influencers in your space so that you can share and repost content. Kendra, do you have more?
Yeah, I think the first step is really developing your calendar. Get organized. Know what's happening for the year. Know what your funders expect, and start mapping out that course. I think that'd be a good starting point. And then, like Catherine said, knowing what your goals are. Where do you stand currently, and what is a realistic expectation for the new year?
We're just going into social media for the first time, actually, this year. We started last year, but very weakly. But we're trying now to really embrace the the new media, social media.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. When I started, our social media had been established, but we've grown so much since. And the first thing we did was those holidays, where anything that's our organization specific that we can tie into our mission, we're acknowledging, and as much as possible. So that was a really good way to get people to say, hey, who's LSHV? And it started once one person liked, and it continued and continued.
I'll just add
for a small nonprofit just starting out, do you recommend that they just go with Hootsuite and something so that they can, if they don't have a lot of person power behind this, would they just pick one of those platforms and start working with that to at least start scheduling things out, and they can post more often that way?
I am kind of reserved to say just go with Hootsuite, only because there's a cost associated with it. If you haven't had any followers or you have not done anything on social media, I'm not sure if that can make it into the budget this year. So I would say pick the platform that speaks to your target market. With LSHV, it's a little bit different because we have so many different practice areas. A lot of smaller nonprofits, you're focusing on one core mission. You want to see where your people are. Are they on Twitter? Are they on Facebook? Or are they on Instagram? And that's where you want to focus your energy, making sure that you're out there at least posting on those platforms where you're going to meet the most number of people. Facebook does have a scheduling tool as well, so it can make it a little easier. but I would say focus your energy. First, figure out what each platform does and focus your energy there as starting out, and then branch off from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Mindy?
Hi, yes, thanks. It's Mindy Lund from Pro Bono Partnership. And I was wondering if Kendra or anyone else maybe who has some thoughts on this, if you've done any branded, so once you've done your editorial calendar and you've identified, like, I think Catherine was saying, like, Funder Fridays, once you've identified those themes, has anyone created branded sort of templates that speak to that theme for that day? And if you have, how does that work? Is it worth the time and effort? It sounds like Canva would be good for that, but anyway, your thoughts there?
Canva is great for that. On Canva, you're able to set up different folders. And what I've done, I have my grants, I have my holidays, I have my thank yous, and I literally go in there and pick a template. They give you a lot of options on designs, because sometimes for me, just creating a design can be like a task in itself. And it's like, how am I supposed to do this? I don't design here, but it gives you a lot of options. And the first thing I do is I set up my brand colors in Canva, so they're easily accessible when I do these templates, and templates are able to be edited so they can fit your brand's image. So yes, I recommend, like, at the beginning of the year, to go through your templates, have them ready to go, because there's going to be times you get information and you don't have an hour or a half hour to create something. You need to just pop in a logo and say thank you. Just have those always ready to fire. Catherine, do you want to add to that?
No, I think you did a great job. I mean, Canva is great. And for example, I recently did a gala for one of my clients, and I created a look in Canva for all of our sponsor recognition posts and all of our, donor posts, and all of those things had a very similar look. And I was just able to schedule them out, but they all had a very coordinated look that tied to the invitation look of the gala. And you can upload all those colors and themes well in advance. So to your point, when you need them, they're there.
And to piggyback, I just realized I'm going to just share my screen really quickly, because this is our Instagram page that we have. When you go to our Instagram, this is what people see. And as you can see, all the colors are the same fonts that we use throughout. But then there are different templates for federal holidays or these yearly holidays. They all kind of look the same, but then we have our thank you posts to our grantors. And this was a reception here at the award for the Equal Access to Justice. So we just put that picture up to be more alive, but it still fits into what our brand is.
Great, thank you so much.
Just someone, Heather put in the chat that if your accounts are linked, you can publish to Facebook and schedule to post to Instagram. But just to be aware that your audiences may be different, so you may not want to be posting the same content to both platforms. I think Kendra and Catherine both touched on this earlier. Twitter, very different than LinkedIn and Facebook. And so, like, knowing your audience in the different social medias, I think, is really important. So thank you for that, Heather. Any other questions, comments?
Well, then I'll ask a question. I've recently joined an organization and I just realized they don't have a LinkedIn page. So one of my goals today is to set up a LinkedIn page. And if I'm wondering about the logo, you're suggesting doing it with a Canva and then it can adjust the size, or just any advice as I do this for the first time for this organization?
I guess I would need a little more information. Do they already have a logo created?
Yeah, and when I've posted, like when I got this job and I posted it on my LinkedIn account, I mean, it was illegible what came up automatically. So I realize I need to work on this.
Yeah, and you would have to start with a good logo file. And I would recommend maybe seeing if someone has the PNG version, as well as maybe an EPS version, or there's so many different versions that come out better when they're stretched or move, because you have the ability just to literally put the JPEG or PNG right into the logo on your
Okay.
page.
Thank you.
But it's really helpful for the sizing, to take advantage of Canva, because it'll make sure that it doesn't get stretched. The resolution is good. It recommends resolutions for download to you. So you'll never really have that problem of it not looking right. This is the AFP website or Facebook page rather, and I created this whole banner on the top here in Canva. But I used our colors and everything else, but I rotate this around. I have several different versions that I can use to rotate around.
Thanks. If not questions, anybody want to share a best practice or something they've done? Quiet.
I will just mirror what was said so far. Is the calendaring is huge. I think Catherine and Kendra both touched on the fact that social media can get overwhelming, especially if you've got a lot going on. And at LSHB, we have so many different audiences, right? We're sending out stuff through social media for our clients, for our staff, for our donors, our government officials. So we kind of try to make sure that the calendar has enough planned events in there so that we don't get kind of caught in the weeds. We know that there's certain times a year that we're going to be doing Twitter storms. We know that there's going to be certain times a year that we want to do a lot of thank yous and a lot of talking to the donors. So we try to schedule that. And Kendra's really good about keeping track of that in a communications calendar and mirroring it with our direct mail, we make sure that everything is kind of seamless. So if we have an event coming up, we time those notifications out along with our social media so that it all goes together. So I think that's a really important step, no matter how far into the social media universe you are or how little.
Another thing too, and to the social media ambassador point that I made earlier, give your board members a cheat sheet on the best ways to engage on social media on your behalf. Likes are nice, but shares are better. Commenting is better than a like. A share is better than a comment. Give them the hierarchy of how to really increase engagement, how to tag, how to mention you and things that they're doing on their own pages. And that will really also, teach them how to help you increase engagement, because it is very labor intensive. And if we don't have staff dedicated to it, it's hard to manage it all.
Also encourage your staff. Kendra and I did a presentation to our staff on how to use social media for work. And it was really helpful. I think they really started to understand that, like, if they share something to their network, how much it grows and how much further the word gets out. And even if you have a small staff, it's really helpful for them, even if not everybody does it, but you get a few ambassadors among the staff that are going to do that. It really does help, especially if you're in the beginning stages.
Sort of along with that, Maureen, this year we formed a small social media committee that included people outside of the marketing department. So we have one or two fundraisers, but we also have a finance person and we have a couple of program people, just to make sure that the marketing team knows, sort of the inside information that we know as well. So that's been really helpful in developing that calendar.
Okay, so we're going to be here for a couple more minutes, and I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to ask questions or make comments. But I just wanted to remind everybody that this program has been recorded, so we will be getting it out to everybody who was on this call, and then the PowerPoints will be available on both websites for members. So if you're a member of AFP, both PowerPoints will be on their website, and if you're a member from GPLH, it will be on our website as well. So, but give us about a week to get that up and running